What's Crack-A-Lackin? Welcome in to My Mind is a Weapon Fantasy Football Show.
Welcome into the episode of My Mind is a Weapon Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Sleaze. Today, we're going to be diving into Week 8 start, sit-em, wide receivers for every single matchup, guys, and it is BYEMAGGEDON week. So 6 teams are on a bye. Make sure they're all out of your rosters. The Lions, the Raiders, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Jaguars. Don't make a fantasy football mistake. You shouldn't leave them in your lineup. Before we dive into it, I'm going to break down points allowed at the wide receiver position, some defensive injuries, receptions allowed, yards allowed, touchdowns allowed, as of why I like these guys as starts or sits this week, and based on game scripts with the over-unders heading into these matchups. Now, before we dive into it, make sure you tap that thumbs up, hit that subscription button, turn that bell on. Helps me out a ton. I will be live Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Again, we'll be doing all types of shows this weekend. If you guys can't make any of the shows, you have any comments, drop them down below. I try to answer every single one of them. It doesn't have to pertain to this video at all. Here to help you guys out. If you haven't checked out drafters.com, the sponsor, make this, and the guys FF Discord that I run with Big Draft Energy, both of these will be pinned in the comments and linked in the description of the video. We cover best ball drafts, pick'ems, DFS, and in the Discord we cover everything: dynasty, player value, trades to make and redraft, everything start sits to the max. Make sure you check it out, guys. And now let's take a look at all the wide receivers you should be starting or sitting heading into Week 8. So if you guys are new to the channel, this is my wide receiver board. Green start, yellow flex. We'll talk high and low end flex. Red is a sit, away team at the top versus down to the home team at the bottom, guys. And we are going to kick it off with Thursday night football. The 3-3 Vikings are heading into the 4-3 Chargers. The over-under is 44.5. The Chargers are favored by 3.5 in this game. And again, we're back to this nightmare with the Chargers, but we'll talk about the Vikings first. So Justin Jefferson, this is a bad matchup all across the board versus the Chargers. The secondary is where the Chargers have been strong, and the run game is where the Chargers have been weak. So obviously, if you watch my running back video, I like Aaron Jones and Mason as flex plays, but I'm not sitting Justin Jefferson, superstar talent, and with the production of Jordan Addison, you can't sit him either. 15, 15, 23 in his last 3 games. He's become a favorite target of Carson Wentz because Justin Jefferson's drawing all the doubles. So even in this bad matchup on a short week, I still like, sorry, I got the hiccups, these guys as starts, and it's a tough matchup. I'm just basing it off of the fact of how the Vikings have been playing. So obviously, you know, if you don't want to start Jordan Addison, I can understand that in a tough matchup, but he's seeing too much volume for me. Now on the Chargers side, we talked about this last week. It was going to be Keenan Allen or it was going to be Ladd McConkey, who shredded the Indianapolis Colts because that's where they struggle is versus the slot. Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey both shredded them. Now you get the Minnesota Vikings here. So we're back to this nightmare type decision. And you know, Quentin Johnson, he missed a couple deep balls in that game. He could have had a big game as well. So when you look at the Chargers run game, right? So, well, first, hang on, I skipped it here. Let's go back. So the Chargers, they rank 8th versus the wide receiver, giving up 28 points a game. They've given up 79 receptions for 958 yards and only 3 touchdowns, okay? So that's why the Chargers is a tough secondary. Now, when I'm looking at the Vikings, they're number 4. They give up 25.92. They've only given up 50 receptions to the wide receiver. Obviously, the Eagles shredded them last week. They were number 1, and that was off a bye. So 50 receptions, 787 yards, and 5 touchdowns. This is a very good secondary. It's just one of those aberration games versus the Eagles that I did not even see coming myself. So now we're back to the situation of it's not a slot dominant game here. It's X outside. A.J. Brown went off to toasted him, so you can go deep with Quentin Johnston. You could probably flex all 3 of them again. And that's going to be the nightmare with the Chargers. Besides last week was the only week I liked Keenan Allen and Ladd combined together. This week is going to be like, who's going to hit here, right? So any one of these guys can pop. I'd say they're all flexible this week. And they're all high-end flexes as well. They're not low-end flexes, especially when you got, I think it's going to go over 44.5. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than that too. So I'm going Addison and Jefferson starts, and I'm going Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, and Quentin Johnson, roulette wheel high-end flex plays. The 1-6 Miami Dolphins, who are falling off a goddamn cliff, are heading into the 3-3 Atlanta Falcons. 44.5 over under. Atlanta Falcons are favored by 7.5. Now in this game, Jalen Waddle is going to be a sit for me for more than just the reasons that he got banged up last week. You're going to get A.J. Terrell in this game. It's one of the best corners you could get, hands down. Also, the Atlanta Falcons are number 2 versus the wide receiver. That's 25.3 points they allow. They've allowed 57 receptions for 685 yards. That is the least yards in the NFL to the wide receiver position, and 4 touchdowns. Now, we don't know how is it going to go. Quinn Ewers came in last game. What if Atlanta's up 17-3 at half? Tua could get pulled. Gets even worse for Waddle. Not a good situation for Jalen Waddle this week. I do not like him even as a low-end flex play, even if volume was there. Now with Drake London, I'm also kind of tempering my start with him, but he's still a start, right? So you get Miami. They've been very good versus the wide receiver, but that's because they're so bad versus the running back that people just pound the run on them. I mean, they've allowed like 1,500 yards to the running back rate in total. It's freaking crazy. So when you look at their stats, they rank number 6 versus the wide receiver, 70 receptions, 780 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Touchdowns are there. He's a big body in the red zone. But again, are we just going to get like a beat? And you got Michael Penix kind of banged up. Are we going to get a full Bijan, Tyler Algier, just run him over show here, and not a lot of volume for Mooney? And Ray McLeod was released. So I can take this picture away. I probably got to add in Casey Washington here. How did I pull that name out of a hat? So, yeah, London's still a start for me, but it's a low-end start because I just think the game script could get really, really bad for the Miami Dolphins here. And who knows if Tua even makes it through this game. Speaking of just dumpster fire, the 0-7 New York Jets are headed into the 3-4 Cincinnati Bengals led by Joe Flacco. Now, we don't know if Garrett Wilson is going to play in this game or not. Love you, babe. Even if it's Tyrod Taylor, does it help them a ton? Yeah, maybe they could complete a pass, which their owner was just ragging on Justin Fields for not completing a pass for. But if Garrett Wilson is out there, the matchup is just pure gold. So Tyrod Taylor or not, like I've got to do this. So we don't know yet if he was doubtful, and it said couple weeks. So if he's out there, right, he's obviously a start. No matter what, he's the only wide receiver they really have. I mean, when you look at Arian Smith or Alan Lazard or Josh Reynolds, it's all not good. Okay, and you can look at the Bengals here. So maybe Tyrod can get it going a little bit here. Hopefully, maybe, right? So the Bengals, they give up 30.7. That ranks 12th. 79 receptions for 1,012 yards. 1,012 yards is bottom 5 in the NFL. They've also given up 4 TDs. But they did have a better game last week against, the Steelers. It all went to the tight end, so they got crushed there. But they still gave up touchdowns galore. Now, Joe Flacco's side. Man, he's going to light up Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They are back. They are back. They are back. And hopefully he can hold the fort down until Joe Burrow gets back in mid-December. And as long as Joe Flacco is out there, I don't even care about the matchup. This is why I said he was the perfect quarterback for them to get, because he can be the statue guy that can read the play with a terrible offensive line and get it out quick. And look how many times he targeted Jamar Chase. It was absolutely bonkers. He broke the Cincinnati Bengals record for most catches in a game with Flacco and not Burrow. What? And you saw how much Jamar Chase liked him after the press conference at the end. So the Jets, they're good versus the wide receiver. They rank 9th, giving up 29 points, 71 receptions, 1,010 yards, so a lot of yards as well. 5 touchdowns as well. I don't care. Joe Flacco is peppering these two, and you are starting them probably for the rest of the season as long as this Flacco to Burrow. The Cleveland Browns, 2-5, coming off their big win over the Dolphins, are headed into the red-hot 5-2 New England Patriots, and I do not like anyone on the Cleveland Browns receiving core, even in this game, even if David Njoku is out. And they say David Njoku is day-to-day. So what you have seen here, when you're looking at the New England Patriots, besides their defense has been absolutely phenomenal this year, this is their weak spot, by the way, too. So they ranked 19th versus the wide receiver, giving up 33 points, but they also give up a lot in garbage time last game, completely dominating that game. So not as bad as the numbers say. 80 receptions, 1,033 yards, and 7 touchdowns. But what have you noticed with Dylan Gabriel? He could throw 52 pass attempts and barely any to the wide receivers. And David Njoku's back. This is what rookie quarterbacks do. They target their security blanket. That is where New England is also weak as well, as versus the tight end. So if they're both back out there, I think it's just going to leave these two, all three of them, Tillman, Judy, and Isaiah Bond, all in no man's land. And there's no way I'm starting them in this game. On to the Patriots side. This is going to be interesting here. So Stephon Diggs, start for me. Keyshawn Boutte, high-end flex play for me with how he's drawing his connection with Drake May. Drake May's throwing such a pretty deep bomb. It's insane. And he can connect with him on the deep bomb. That's their speedster guy, right? So when you're looking at this matchup versus the Cleveland Browns, Ramondre Stevenson, and I guess you can't even say Travion Henderson anymore, they're not going to have a good run game against Cleveland because no one does. They're going to have to pass. This is going to have to be a Drake-May different game. These wide receivers are going to be way more involved in this game too. It's not a bad game script like last week where they just beat the brakes off them, right? So I like Stephon Diggs as a start. I like Keyshawn Boutte as a high-end flex, and I'm not touching Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams, Chisholm, or any of the Browns in this game. Thumbnail time, the 2-5 Giants, led by Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo and Wan'Dale Robinson, we throw his name there after last week, are headed into the 5-2 Eagles for the Saquon Barkley revenge game. Now, when you're looking at Jackson Dart, man, I did not think at all that he would take 3 playoff teams to the brink and beat 2 of them. And he should have had the Denver Broncos last week, too. The way that game ended was wild. Just imagine when he gets Malik Neighbors back, or imagine the Giants trade for another wide receiver and heading into 2026. Oh, my God, you might have QB1 on your hands. So when we're talking about this game here, the Philadelphia Eagles, they struggle versus the wide receiver, even with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean out there as well. They give up 34.1. That ranks 22nd. 92 receptions, 1,166 yards, which is bottom 3. Or no, it's number 1 worst, actually, in the NFL yardage-wise. So second behind them is the Rams at 1,128. Or sorry, never mind. I'm way off. New York Giants are worse than them, so that's why I like this game a ton. So, and 4 touchdowns. Now, they're not going to line up Wan'Dale as the X or the Y. They line him up everywhere, which makes him a nightmare to stop. He's becoming Dart's go-to guy, which is solid. Slayton could finally be back to give Wan'Dale some help because Jalen Hyatt was never the answer. So it's been really, really tough out there for the wide receiver group. And Dart is still balling. It's crazy. So I love Wan'Dale as a start against Philly this week. And I don't think, maybe Slayton would be like a low-end flex, but I just don't trust it. Now, Eagles side. They finally did it. And I did not see that coming versus Minnesota at all. I mean, they lit them up, and that was supposed to be a Saquon Barkley game. That's a narrative I am kind of scared of here too, but I don't even know if Saquon Barkley is like in the RB1 category anymore with how this year's going. So this is the New York Giants' horrible secondary. They are good up front, but again, it is a Saquon revenge game. A.J. Brown, I expect to light it up again here. Devonta Smith, flex play if you need, because he did hit that 78-yard home run. He had a great game. I think it was like 183, which was bonkers. But I'd rather trust A.J. Brown in this situation. So the Giants, they rank 30th, giving up 39.8, 101 receptions, which is the most receptions in the NFL to the wide receiver position. Sorry, second most behind the Colts. And 1,267 yards in 6 games. Holy moly, that's like 205 yards a game just to the wide receiver. Throw out the tight end and the running back to get receiving yards. This defense is terrible. So 6 touchdowns as well to the wide receiver position. They kind of locked down in the red zone. Still, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I'm going to say A.J. is a must start. Devonta Smith is a mid-tier flex. I wouldn't say high-end flex. And Jahan Dotson I'm not touching. And the game is at a 44.5 over-under. I like the over, man. I don't understand why they're going so low. And Philly's favored by 7.5, although Dart beat him last time. So I might even take the Giants' points here. The 4-2 Bills coming off a bye are headed into the 4-3 red-hot Carolina Panthers, who have won 4 out of 5, which is crazy. Now, this is a different type game for me here. So the over-under is 45.5. Buffalo is favored by 7.5 on the road. Andy Dalton will be the quarterback instead of Bryce Young with a high ankle sprain. So when I'm looking at the Bills side, J.C. Horn, who is going to be on Keon Coleman, has earned top 5 respect. The guy's been an absolute lights-out corner. Where the Panthers can get beaten, the passing game is through the slot where Khalil Shakir lives. So he's the high-end flex play for me. Keon Coleman is not. But we're going to look at the Panthers' defense. And, guys, they've been number 3 on the season. This Panther D is vastly improved. They give up 25.6, 66 receptions, which is bottom 5, 817 yards, only 4 touchdowns. So this has been a lights-out defense. I know you have Josh Allen. I'm not saying, Josh Allen's not the guy. I just don't like the matchups to go against J.C. Horn. You saw the interception he made last week, flying with one hand, pulled it in. The man's playing out of his mind. Now, on to the Panthers side. This Bills secondary is beat up. They've been getting gashed by the run. They've been a little better versus the pass. Maybe they get a little healthier off the bye. So they rank 10th. They give up 30.3, 64 receptions. Again, they've had a bye, so you got to, take out at least 20 completions from the game on average, 799 yards, right? And they've given up 6 touchdowns. So over a touchdown a game to the wide receivers. Xavier Legette, the breakout, 9 targets last game. He's getting targeted more than Ted McMillan. Now, is Andy Dalton going to light up Ted McMillan? this is the question that like everyone is asking, and I'm also on the fence with, like, I want to know, because I never really trusted Jalen Coker last week. A lot of people asked me to start Coker. I was like, no, no, no. And Tet's not getting a lot of volume. So I'm going to say that if this game gets into a bad game script where the Panthers have to pass heavy, which Andy Dalton could definitely do, that Ted McMillan and Xavier Legette are both high-end flex plays, and Coker I'm not touching this week. The 4-2 with 4 straight wins Chicago Bears Ben Johnson-led offense is heading into the 1-5 Ravens, and they are 6.5 underdogs. 4-2, 1-5, 6.5 underdogs. That's the Lamar Jackson effect. Now, Rome Odunze, I know people were in a panic with 2 bad games, but dude, last week was pure sleet, pure rain, ugly game for the Bears offense. That's why they ran the ball 40 times. So obviously it hurt DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. Now we're heading into Baltimore. Looks like clear skies for now. I hate doing weather updates because they always change the day of. But when we're looking at this matchup, the Baltimore Ravens, they give up 39 points a game. Yes, they're coming off a bye. Yes, they could be healthier. I get that as well. But they've given up 78 receptions for 892 yards and 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns is second worst in the NFL, even with a bye week. So this secondary has been getting shredded. Now we're looking at a 49.5 over-under game. I think it goes over that, especially if Lamar Jackson's out there. This could be a shootout game that we are looking at. I love Rome as a start still, even off 2 bad games. I'm not that guy that just benches him because he starts playing bad. DJ Moore is a flex play if needed. Hopefully that hip is getting better. And my guy Luther Burden, man, they're just burning talent on the bench. I swear this guy's so good. It drives me nuts, but we just don't get to see the show yet. On the Ravens side, I love Zay Flowers this week. He's going to be a smash play of mine. Rashad Bateman and DeAndre Hopkins, I am not touching. The Chicago Bears struggle heavily versus the wide receiver. And you got to think last game was in the rain, and they still couldn't stop Chris Olave. So they give up 34.3. That ranks 24th, which is 8th worst. They give up 55 receptions, 830 yards, and 10 touchdowns, which is tied for 3rd worst. I love the gadget play of Zay Flowers. Again, I only like Zay Flowers if Lamar Jackson is out there. If we're back to Huntley or Cooper Rush, count me out on all the Ravens receivers, and it'll just be the Derrick Henry show. So, again, this is hinging on Lamar Jackson, but I'm starting Odunze and Flowers and a high-end flex play with DJ Moore with how bad the Ravens secondary is. My 5-2 49ers, who knows how we're doing it with all the freaking injuries galore, are headed into the Houston Texans this week. Texans are 2-4 coming off that Monday Night Football loss to Seattle. They lose Nico Collins with a concussion. Who knows if he's going to be back in this game as well. But I'm going to put him green for now because we saw Marvin Harrison make it back for Nico Collins. And we're going to do the Texans first here. So Christian Kirk, I know he went down with a hamstring last week, like last minute, and he almost tried to play. And I know he's older and had a couple injuries throughout his career. But if he can get out here in this game, this is the 49ers' weak spot is across the middle without Fred Warner there. And this has been their security blanket that they've talked about when he's out there. So you obviously got Nico Collins, your alpha on the outside. Christian Kirk would be the guy in the middle. Jaden Higgins may get more involved here if Nico Collins is out. Remember that as well. And then what if Christian Kirk is out? Jalen Nola, I don't have him up here. I would actually like as like a sleeper flex play this week. Just depending on how these injuries go. So this is very hard to decipher with the Texans right now, but this is how I leave it for now. So the 49ers ranked 13th, very good defense, shut down the Falcons last week with absolutely no one out there, 30.7, 77 receptions, 1,030 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So it's been a very good pass D, but I'm not sitting Nico Collins still, even if he's out there. Now on the 49ers side, you get the Houston Texans. Their front is nasty. They're nasty versus the wide receiver. They're nasty versus the running back. Their offense just is not clicking. So they're a very good defense. Number 5, giving them 27.1, 62 receptions, 849 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, we don't know if Purcell is going to be out there. We don't know if Purdy's going to be out there. They're saying Mac Jones already, so it looks like Mac Jones is going to be out there. You know, Jennings had a bigger game last week. Kittle had a dud, a 0, which no one expected, and it was a CMC show. We probably could be looking at that again here, even against a tough run D. So Kendrick Bourne, I'm not starting him anymore. His kind of run is over for me, even if Mac Jones is out there. Brandon Ayuk still on IR. I don't know how I think this game's going to go. I don't know what kind of game plan Shanahan's going to bring out here. You know, I don't know if he's going to go for a touch 'em 40 thing like they said last week, or if we're going to go for, you know, a pass game that I just think Mac Jones is banged up, man. So low-end flex plays for Juan Jennings and Purcell if they're out there. Again, make sure you're watching the injury status report on Ricky Pearsall throughout the week. The 5-2 Bucks coming off that brutal loss of Mike Evans last night. Man, God, he comes back for one game and goes for a deep ball and just broken collarbone. 6 to 8 weeks. Prayers up for Big Mike. I always love watching that guy, man. I don't want to see his career end like that. I hope he comes back for at least another year or possible the playoff run this year. So with that update, and you've got the Bucks also having a bye next week, so it doesn't look like Chris Godwin's going to play, and it doesn't look like Jalen McMillan may not even play this year. I mean, that neck injury was very, very bad. Could be very critical to his life if he came back in like week 12 and 13 and something happened. It'd be absolute nightmare. So Emeka Egbuka back to the moon, right? This guy probably finishes a top 10 wide receiver this season just with the injuries. But it seems like Tampa must have had like a, what do you call it? Like a dream ball, like a crystal ball is what I'm looking for this wide receiver draft. I mean, they must have known these guys were going to get hurt or something because they stacked up Tez Johnson, who's absolutely balling out of Oregon. And obviously you have Baker Mayfield that makes it look great. But Tez Johnson had 15 points last week. You get the Saints this week. The Saints are not good at all, any way, shape, or form on any part of defense. They rank 16th versus the wide receiver, getting up 31 points, 72 receptions, 967 yards, but 8 touchdowns. That's a lot. I expect Baker to bounce back. He was sailing a lot of balls on Monday night. It was very weird from Baker. I don't know if Mike Evans' injury like had him rattled, thinking season long or what it was, but Baker just did not look like Baker. And Egbuka is always a start. Even off that rough hamstring game last night, I'm still fine with Egbuka. Now on the Saints side. Smash call of the week was Chris Olave last week. Absolutely hit dead on that. You get Tampa Bay. They rank 15th, giving up 31.3. 80 receptions, 1,012 yards. That's bottom 10, and 6 touchdowns as well. And Rattler's been playing better. He was kind of thrown to the wolves this year. I know I've said that a couple times. But what was missing in those first couple games was that deep ball to Olave that was just off by like 2-3 yards on the throws, sometimes 10 yards on some of them, right? It's Rattler. Now, last couple games, it started to pick up and been on the money. So I love Chris Olave as a start always from here on out, as long as he's on the Saints, because the volume base he's going to get is going to be absolutely bonkers. They're never going to be ahead. They're always playing from behind, pass-heavy game scripts, easy wide receiver 2 flex play for me every week. Now, Rashid Shaheed, he's in that Matthew Golden, Jamison Williams with a goose egg. I told you guys, just get rid of that guy when he pops. This is where they're at now. You've got probably like a Xavier Worthy, a Matthew Golden, a Rashid Shaheed, a Jamison Williams. All these guys could give you a 0 or freaking 20 points every single week. Not how I like to do fantasy. If they pop, sell them, in my opinion. So if you want to start Rashid Shaheed, that's up to you. My answer is always, it's up to you for boomer bust players. The fireworks show that we're hoping for here. The Dallas Cowboys at 3-3-1 are headed into the 5-2 Broncos that just keep clutching it out in the fourth quarter. What a comeback there. Now, normally against Patrick Surtain, you don't start a wide receiver, but you have George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott who are playing out of their goddamn minds. Usually this matchup I would stay away from. The Denver Broncos are number 1 versus the wide receiver, allowing 23 points, 76 receptions, 822 yards, only 1 receiving touchdown. None of that looks any good way. I don't want it, right? No way, shape, or form that looks good. But this guy is just on fire. I mean, you cannot sit these guys with the Cowboys offense. So, yeah, I want to say like temper CeeDee Lamb and temper George Pickens, but Dak is out of his mind, and I can't sit the Cowboys even versus the number 1 defense. I'm not doing it. Now, Cortland Sutton side, one of my smash plays last week absolutely hit. It's going to smash again this week. And why? Well, you get the Dallas Cowboys. This defense is the worst in the NFL. They give up 40.7, ranking second worst against the wide receiver, 1,182 yards. That's third worst. 12 receiving touchdowns, which is worst in the NFL. 10 comes in at number 2 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cortland Sutton is going to absolutely feast. The over-under is 50.5. I bet it goes up to 51.5 by kickoff. Broncos favored by 3.5. This is going to be one of those games where we hope the Broncos offense isn't this stalled out one or first quarter, second quarter, third quarter offense, and they wake up in the fourth quarter and score 33 points. Dude, Bo Nix has like 60 fantasy points just in the fourth quarter combined the past 2 weeks. Imagine if he put a freaking full game together. And I don't know about Marvin Mims or Franklin because you could throw Pat Bryant up there if you want. He's playing like 40% of the snaps. One of these guys is going to hit too if this is the shootout game that we're looking for. So both low-end flex plays for me. If you have one on your roster, want to take the dart throw because it's BYEMAGGEDON week, I'm not mad at it. I don't love it, but one of them could hit for sure. The 1-6 Titans are headed into the best offense in the NFL in points per game. The 6-1 Indiana Jones led Indianapolis Colts, which is obviously ridiculous. Steichen's got them just straight balling. So the over-under is 47.5, and the Colts are favored by 14.5. So when I look at that over-under, I'm like, man, 47.5, that seems high. The Colts are scoring 38 points a game, so all the Titans would need is like 12 points to cover that over. So when I'm looking at Calvin Ridley, I mean, this is the best matchup in football. We just don't know if he's going to be out there with the hamstring. It's like a Garrett Wilson situation. So make sure you're paying attention to the injury updates coming up here. But what we saw with Callahan being fired was Cam Ward's best game, best passing performance game. And there was no Calvin Ridley out there. So the Colts guys are 32nd, dead last against the wide receiver, 41 points a game. 108 receptions. That's the highest amount. 1,212 yards. That's second worst compared to the New York Giants. And 9 touchdowns. So if Calvin Ridley can get out there, garbage time or not, he'll still get enough to be a start. I love him in this matchup if he's out there. And I am I could put Chimera DK up there. If he hasn't in the big game, I'll throw him up there. I'm not playing them in this game if Calvin Ridley's out there. But if I gets out there without Calvin Ridley, it becomes interesting. He'll become a flex play for me. So on to the Colts side, looks like we're going to get Josh Downs back off the concussion, and Michael Pittman just had his big game last week with Josh Downs out. And I'm staying away. The matchup, this could be, let's say that the Titans are the worst versus the wide receiver, but they're not. They're pretty bad. They're 21st. They give up 33.6. Let's say they're the worst. They're still going to get crushed in this game. The offense of the Colts, the defense of the Colts, I mean, they're probably going to get, a fumble, whatever, to the house. I mean, the Titans are screwed, right? This team's scoring 38 points a game. So, they're not 30, it's like 34. I don't like the volume here. I like this more as a JT game. I like the Colts just to control the clock and just run them out the building. I don't think they're going to need to pass much to beat the Titans, and that's what we've seen with the Titans games. They're just ugly. So Pittman and Downs are both low flex plays for me if you need. I know Pittman's coming off a hot game, and you're going to think it's going to carry over. But if he doesn't score early, we're probably looking at just control the clock. JT, 200 is not out of the question for him. So 200 yards and another 3-touchdown game for him. So, I mean, I'd say low-end flex plays for Pittman and Downs, and Calvin Ridley if he's out there. I love this game for him. Sunday Night Football, the Aaron Rodgers revenge game. Man, don't we wish this was just in Lambeau instead of at Pittsburgh. It would just be straight epic. 44.5 over under. Green Bay is favored by 3.5. 4-1-1 Packers, 4-2 Steelers. I can't wait for this game. So when I'm looking at the Green Bay Packers, and we don't have full report yet, but back-to-back weeks, Christian Watson has been close to playing, and they were targeting week 8 all year long. So it looks like he could be back for this game, which would just make this wide receiver room more of a nightmare than it already is. So you've got kind of Romeo Doubs as your possession guy. You've got Matthew Golden, who's your boomer bust guy. And now you've got Christian Watson, who's a monstrous red zone threat that can also hit a deep bomb as well. So you get the Pittsburgh Steelers defense versus the wide receiver. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense right now, currently on the season, as I'm clearing my throat, they've been terrible. So they rank 27th. They give up 39 points a game. They've given up 93 receptions, 1,108 yards, and 5 touchdowns to the wide receiver through 6 games. That is very, very not the steel curtain-like defense, especially with the 3 old veteran names. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, man, he's just getting cooked out there. So now when it comes to the Green Bay Packers wide receiver room, this is like the Los Angeles Chargers. If you want to take a shot on any of them, that is up to you. I would say the safest one would be Romeo Doubs because he's your possession wide receiver that's probably going to see 7-8 targets. I'd say if you're looking for that upside play, it's Matthew Golden. I mean, he hasn't even had it yet. So, I mean, we're almost halfway through the season. He hasn't even had a freaking 10-point game. So, and Christian Watson's a monster red zone threat. And now we're about to get Jaden Reed back in like 3-4 weeks. So this is just going to be trouble to decide. I mean, you hope the answer is Jordan Love. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers side, DK Metcalf has to be a start. I know he had a bad game last week. I don't care. It's the revenge game. The revenge game of all revenge games is pretty much Aaron Rodgers versus Green Bay Packers. This is going to be awesome to watch. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to light it up just like I said he would last week as the start with Joe Flacco. And I think he's going for 20-plus here again. And you look at the Green Bay defense, they have been very, very good versus the running back and very bad versus the wide receiver. Well, not bad, but getting worse. So they rank 18th, getting up 32.5, 78 for 855 and 5 touchdowns. Now, I know DK's got to get this volume down, man. He's become this like home run guy. They need to get that Devontae Adams short game, short route working with DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers, and then the peppers will just start rolling like crazy. So I still like him as a start here because I know Calvin Austin could be back in this game too. Roman Wilson, not really a threat at wide receiver. He's getting more involved here and there. And you got Arthur Smith running a 4-wheel rotation, 4-touchdown tight end game last week, and it is National Tight Ends Day this week, so that kind of scares me there too. But DK Metcalf is always a start from you based on the situation going on in Pittsburgh. Monday Night Football, the Washington Commanders, who I firmly believe are going to be led by Marcus Mariota, are heading into the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't even know if these two wide receivers are going to be out there, right? We don't know if Terry McLaurin or Debo is going to be out there. And JD5 might not be out there either. So they could probably hold all of these guys out. And if they do, we're not taking that same gamble that we even talked about last week with Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, and Chris Moore. Not at all. The Kansas City Chiefs are number 7 versus the wide receiver, getting 27.49, 79 receptions, 829 yards, and 5 TDs. So this, when I'm looking at McLaurin and Debo, this is based on game script here. So I'm going to look at this game like, dude, since Rashee Rice is back, he is just an animal. I told you guys to go buy low as much as you could. This is the only alpha wide receiver in the Chiefs wide receiver room. And when it comes to Xavier Worthy, like I've said, with Rashid Shaheed, with Matthew Golden, he's no floor. This guy is a boom or bust player. He is a Jameson Williams type. Hollywood Brown I put as a sit, even though he got a touchdown last week. I mean, dude, if they played that game out and that game was close, Rashee Rice might have had 15 targets. I mean, he is just looked at by Mahomes all freaking day. I'm starting him for the rest of time. Don't even think about benching him regardless of the matchup. But again, on the Commander side, if it's Marcus Mariota, if it's Marcus Mariota and JD5 is out, I like Terry McLaurin and Debo if they're out there more because I think the Commanders are going to blow them or get blown out the water and they'll get garbage time points. So that's the only reason I like them in this game. Besides that, Rashee Rice for me, and then Xavier Worthy when it comes to boomer bust, like I said, that's up to you. Thanks for rocking with me, guys. That is the end of the episode. That is every wide receiver, every single matchup. Remember, BYEMAGGEDON that you need to be starting, high and low and flexing, and sitting this week. If you guys have any questions on the way out, as always, drop them down below. Again, I'll be live all weekend long. If you can't make the live shows, I'll try to answer every single question for you guys. As always, make sure you've tapped that thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that subscription button. Turn that bell on. Helps me out a ton. I can't thank you guys enough for how much support you've shown me. You guys are absolutely a goated community. It is unbelievable. Again, we talked about at the beginning. If you haven't checked out the guys, FF or drafters.com and use promo code SLEAZE, make sure you guys do. I'll be live drafting on Friday as well. Probably do some underdog there as well, guys. Now, my quarterback running backs are out. Hopefully, I get my tight end video out tonight, trying to get it all out today, and then we'll dive into some rankings tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Sleazebomb out.